Dust swirled around worn boots as the trembling girl approached the giant cowboy, her voice cutting through the desert silence. Black Widow asked the giant cowboy for a job. He replied, "Only if you'll marry me by sunset." The town's cruel whispers followed her like vultures. Bad luck, they said, danger in petticoats. They expected her to drift away like tumbleweeds, forgotten by morning. But the mountain of a man saw something different in her desperate eyes, something that matched his own hidden burden of being dismissed despite his strength. His shocking proposal wasn't mockery. It was strategy, wrapped in secrets that could either destroy them both or forge the key to justice neither could achieve alone. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, one question burned in the gathering crowd. Would this impossible bargain save them, or seal their doom? The morning sun beat down mercilessly on Copper Ridge as Celeste Morrison stepped off the dusty stagecoach. Her worn leather satchel contained everything she owned. 3 towns had already turned her away. This was her last chance. Whispers followed her down Main Street like shadows. The shopkeepers pulled their children closer. Women crossed to the other side of the road. They called her the Black Widow behind cupped hands. Not for any crime she'd committed, but for the color of her skin and the misfortune that seemed to trail her like smoke. At the general store, the owner shook his head before she even spoke. The saloon keeper spat in the dirt and walked away. The seamstress slammed her door shut. Each rejection cut deeper than the last. Judge Cornelius Blackwood emerged from his office as Celeste approached the bank. His silver hair gleamed in the sunlight, but his eyes held the coldness of winter. He watched her with the predatory interest of a hawk circling wounded prey. The bank refused her too. Celeste's stomach growled with hunger she couldn't satisfy. Her coins were nearly gone. Soon she'd be sleeping under stars with no food and no hope. From her spot near the water trough, she witnessed Judge Blackwood corner an elderly rancher outside the courthouse. The old man's hands shook as he signed papers. Blackwood smiled like a snake swallowing a mouse. The rancher walked away with slumped shoulders and empty pockets. Something twisted in Celeste's chest. She recognized the look of defeat. She'd worn it herself too many times. Movement caught her eye. A giant of a man stepped between Judge Blackwood and a Native American family. The family had been loading supplies when 3 men began shoving the father. The giant cowboy didn't raise his voice or his fists. He simply stood there, massive and immovable as a mountain. The troublemakers slunk away like coyotes. Tobias Crane owned the largest ranch outside town, though he worked it alone. His frame could have belonged to a lumberjack or a prizefighter, but his gentle eyes told a different story. People whispered about him too. They said he was simple-minded, too trusting, too soft for the harsh frontier. A coughing fit doubled him over near his wagon. Blood spotted his handkerchief when he pulled it away. The townspeople pretended not to notice. Dying men made them uncomfortable. Celeste made her decision. She had nothing left to lose. The walk to Crane Ranch felt like marching toward a cliff. Dust clouds kicked up behind her worn boots. The sun climbed higher, promising another scorching day. Sweat beaded on her forehead, but she kept walking. Tobias was mending fence when she arrived. His massive hands worked the wire with surprising delicacy. He looked up as her shadow fell across his work. Her throat felt dry as desert sand. Pride warred with desperation in her chest. Desperation won. "I need work." Tobias studied her face with eyes that seemed to see past her skin to something deeper. Most people looked through her or around her. He looked at her. "What kind of work?" "Any kind. I can cook, clean, tend animals, keep books." She lifted her chin. "I'm not afraid of hard labor. Most folks in town seem afraid of you." Heat flushed her cheeks. "I've never hurt anyone." "I know." His voice carried surprising gentleness for such a large man. "Question is, what do you want in return? Fair wages, a place to sleep, food." Tobias coughed again, rougher this time. When it passed, his expression had changed. Something calculating flickered behind his kind eyes. "I might have something for you, but it comes with conditions." Hope fluttered in her chest like a caged bird. "What conditions?" "Marriage." The word hit her like a physical blow. She stepped backward, nearly stumbling. "Only if you'll marry me by sunset." Behind them, the sound of approaching horses filled the air. Judge Blackwood rode up with 2 deputies, their faces twisted with ugly curiosity. More townspeople began gathering at the ranch gate. They smelled drama like vultures smell death. Celeste's mind raced. Marriage to a white man in 1887 meant scandal. It meant danger. But it also meant legal protection she'd never had before. Rights that could shield her from men like Judge Blackwood. Tobias waited for her answer with patience that seemed infinite. The crowd grew larger. Betting voices carried on the wind. They wagered on her humiliation like it was entertainment. The sun had begun its slow journey toward the horizon. Time was running out, and with it, perhaps her only chance at survival in an unforgiving world. If you are enjoying this story of how an impossible proposal will change 2 outcasts forever, don't forget to comment where you are tuning in from to show how this story can connect us across any distances, backgrounds, and hearts. Because what will happen in the next hour in Copper Ridge will completely change everything they thought they knew about justice, love, and the power of unexpected alliances. The crowd pressed closer, hungry for spectacle. Judge Blackwood dismounted, his boots hitting the ground with authority. His smile carried the coldness of a winter grave. "Now, Tobias, you can't be serious about this foolishness." Tobias ignored him. His eyes stayed locked on Celeste's face, waiting, patient as stone. "Walk with me," he said quietly. They moved toward the barn, away from eager ears. The crowd murmured disappointment but kept watching. Judge Blackwood's jaw tightened like a bear trap. Inside the barn's shadows, Tobias spoke words that changed everything. "This isn't about romance. It's about survival." Celeste's hands trembled at her sides. "I don't understand. I'm dying, consumption, got maybe 3 months left." He coughed, proving his point. "Got no family, no heirs. When I die, everything goes to the state." The pieces clicked together in her sharp mind. "Unless you have a wife. A wife inherits everything, legal and proper." His eyes held surprising cunning. "You'd own this ranch, all 1,500 acres, the cattle, the water rights." Her breath caught. Land ownership for someone like her was impossible, unthinkable. Yet here it sat, wrapped in the most unlikely package. "Why me?" "Because you're smart enough to see past the surface. And desperate enough to take the risk." Heat crawled up her neck. The truth stung, but she couldn't deny it. Tobias pulled a leather folder from beneath hay bales. Inside lay documents, deeds, and correspondence. His handwriting covered page after page of careful notes. Judge Blackwood's been stealing land for years, foreclosing on healthy ranches, buying them for pennies through fake debts. His finger traced a list of names. 17 families so far, all legal on paper, all theft in reality. Celeste studied the evidence. Her mind, trained in bookkeeping during better times, caught discrepancies immediately. Forged signatures, backdated contracts, mathematical impossibilities presented as legitimate debt. "You've been building a case against him." "For 2 years, but I'm just a simple rancher in their eyes. My word means nothing in court." His eyes met hers. "But a property owner with legal standing, someone who inherits all this evidence, that's different." The barn door creaked. Judge Blackwood's voice carried from outside. "Tobias, we need to discuss this rationally." Through the window, Celeste saw more riders approaching. The judge's men. They surrounded the property like wolves circling prey. "He's scared," she whispered. "Should be. This ranch sits on the main water source. He's been trying to force me out for months." Tobias coughed again, weaker this time. "Marriage makes you untouchable. Legal wife of a property owner has rights he can't ignore." Memories flooded Celeste's mind. The plantation house where she'd learned to read and write. The master's daughter who taught her mathematics and bookkeeping before fever took the whole family. The years of running, hiding those skills because educated women of her color faced worse than ignorance. "I can manage books, handle legal documents, run business operations. I know, saw it in how you carry yourself, how you talk." Respect colored his voice. This ranch could be profitable again, under proper management. Outside, the crowd grew restless. Bets were being placed. Money changed hands based on her decision. Judge Blackwood's voice rose with impatience. "The sun's moving, Tobias. Time to end this charade." Celeste calculated rapidly. Marriage meant protection under law. Inheritance meant security beyond imagination. But it also meant making herself a target for every person who hated seeing her kind rise above their station. What's the real cost? They'll try everything to break us. Intimidation, legal challenges, social pressure. Tobias met her eyes steadily. "I won't live long enough to see the worst of it. You'll face that alone." "Not alone. I'll have legal standing, property rights, evidence of corruption, and enemies who'll do anything to silence you." The barn door burst open. Judge Blackwood entered without invitation, his deputies flanking him. Sunlight streamed behind them, creating ominous silhouettes. "Enough private conversation. This woman is clearly taking advantage of your illness, Tobias." Tobias straightened to his full height. Even weakened by disease, he towered over the judge like a mountain over a molehill. "My mind's clear as mountain water." "We'll see about that." Blackwood's smile promised trouble. "I can have you declared mentally incompetent. This marriage would be invalid before the ink dried." Celeste stepped forward. Something had crystallized in her chest during their conversation. Not just desperation anymore, but purpose. "Then you'd better move fast, Judge, because I accept." The words rang through the barn like gunshots. Outside, the crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. Money changed hands as bets were settled. Judge Blackwood's face flushed red as a sunset. "This is absurd." "It's legal," Tobias said firmly. "Witnessed by half the town." The judge's eyes narrowed to slits. "We'll see how legal it remains." He stormed out, his deputies following. Through the barn door, Celeste could see him barking orders at his men. Plans were already forming behind his cold eyes. "Last chance to change your mind," Tobias said quietly. Celeste looked at the evidence scattered around them, at the ranch visible through the window, at the opportunity to transform from powerless wanderer to landowner with legal rights. "Find us a preacher," she said, "before that sun touches the horizon." Reverend Thomas arrived within the hour. His weathered Bible trembled in gnarled hands, but his voice remained steady. The ceremony lasted 10 minutes. No flowers, no music, just legal words spoken under a dying sun. Judge Blackwood watched from his horse, face twisted with rage. The crowd had doubled in size. Some came for entertainment. Others sensed history unfolding. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The words sealed Celeste's fate, or freed her from it. Time would tell which. Tobias coughed violently as they signed the marriage certificate. Blood stained his handkerchief darker than before. The disease was winning its war against his massive frame. "It's done," he wheezed. Judge Blackwood spurred his horse forward. "This marriage is a mockery. I'll have it overturned by morning." "Try it," Tobias straightened with effort. "Everything's legal and witnessed." The judge's smile held no warmth. "We'll see about that, won't we, Mrs. Crane?" The name hit Celeste like lightning. Mrs. Crane, property owner, legal entity with rights and standing. The transformation felt surreal. The crowd dispersed reluctantly. Free entertainment had ended, but whispers would continue long into the night. 3 weeks later, Celeste had transformed the ranch operations. She reorganized the bookkeeping system, caught calculation errors that had cost hundreds of dollars, and negotiated better prices with suppliers in nearby towns. Her past experience managing the plantation household had prepared her well. Numbers never lied. Ledgers told stories if you knew how to read them. Efficiency could be measured and improved. The cattle looked healthier under her systematic feeding schedule. Fences got proper maintenance. Workers arrived on time because she paid fair wages promptly. Tobias watched her work with growing admiration. "You're turning this place profitable." It always could have been, just needed proper organization. His coughing fits came more frequently now. Each one left him weaker. but he still spent hours writing in his journals, documenting every piece of evidence against Judge Blackwood. "Found 3 more families he cheated," Tobias said one evening. "The Hendersons, the O'Malleys, the Washingtons." Celeste studied the new evidence. Patterns emerged clearly in the judge's methods: manufactured debts, forged signatures, intimidation tactics disguised as legal pressure. "He's getting desperate," she observed. "The methods are sloppier recently. Because time's running out. He knows I'm dying, knows you'll inherit everything." The bank had started its harassment the previous week. Loan officers appeared daily, demanding immediate payment on debts that weren't due for months. Celeste's meticulous records proved every payment current, but they kept coming. Judge Blackwood's legal challenges began simultaneously. He filed motions questioning Tobias's mental capacity, demanded medical examinations, claimed the marriage was fraudulent. Each court appearance cost money and energy. Celeste handled most of the legal paperwork herself, her education finally proving invaluable. But the pressure mounted daily. The town's treatment of her shifted gradually. Shopkeepers who'd refused her service now accepted her money grudgingly. They needed her business more than they hated her presence. Some neighbors even offered grudging respect. The Martinez family brought fresh vegetables after she helped negotiate a fair contract with cattle buyers. Old Henrik nodded politely when their paths crossed at the feed store, but others grew more hostile. Anonymous threats appeared nailed to fence posts. Cattle went missing, tools disappeared from the barn. "They're testing you," Tobias observed after the 3rd incident, "seeing how far they can push." "Let them try. I've faced worse." One morning, a letter arrived addressed to Mrs. T. Crane. The return address read San Francisco. Tobias paled when he saw it. "Who's writing from California?" Celeste asked. Tobias tucked the letter away quickly. "Old business, nothing important." But his hands shook as he hid it. That evening she found him writing responses by candlelight, his usual journals forgotten. More letters arrived over the following weeks, always addressed formally, always hidden immediately. Tobias grew secretive about his correspondence, but also more hopeful. "Things might change soon," he told her cryptically. "Help might be coming." The bank escalated its pressure. 3 officers arrived with foreclosure papers, claiming missed payments despite Celeste's perfect records. They demanded immediate settlement of the entire mortgage. "This is illegal," Celeste said firmly. "Our payments are current. Here's documentation." "Payments aren't sufficient," the lead officer sneered. "New terms require full settlement. You can't change loan terms retroactively. Judge Blackwood says otherwise." That night, someone tried to burn down the barn. Celeste smelled smoke and woke the household. They saved the building, but the message was clear. Escalation had begun. Tobias could barely stand now. The consumption ravaged his lungs mercilessly. But he kept writing, documenting everything with stubborn determination. "Almost finished," he gasped between coughing fits. "All the evidence, all the proof. Save your strength. Can't stop now. Too close." Judge Blackwood arrived the next morning with a doctor and 3 witnesses. The medical examination was his final card. Prove Tobias mentally incompetent, invalidate the marriage, seize the property. Dr. Peterson examined Tobias thoroughly, asked questions about dates, finances, current events. Tobias answered clearly despite his physical weakness. "This man's mind is sharp as ever," the doctor concluded reluctantly. "The disease affects his body, not his mental faculties." Blackwood's face darkened like a thundercloud. "Examine the woman too. She's clearly manipulating him." "I don't see evidence of manipulation, Judge. This appears to be a legitimate business partnership." After they left, Tobias smiled weakly. "One battle won. How many more to fight?" "Not many. Help's coming soon." That evening, another letter arrived from San Francisco. This time, Tobias showed it to her. The elegant handwriting belonged to someone named Minerva Crane. "My sister," Tobias admitted finally. "Lawyer in California. She's been funding my investigation." Celeste stared at the letter. "Your family has money. had money. I was disowned for defending native land rights." His voice carried old pain, but Minerva never stopped believing in justice. "What does she say?" "She's coming to Copper Ridge, with federal marshals and lawyers." Tobias met her eyes. "The final battle starts soon." Minerva Crane arrived on the Tuesday morning train like an avenging angel dressed in black silk. Her carriage bore the seal of Morrison and Associates, one of San Francisco's most prestigious law firms. Behind her rode 3 federal marshals and 2 additional attorneys. Celeste watched the procession from the ranch house window. This elegant woman shared Tobias's determined jaw and intelligent eyes, but carried herself with the confidence of someone who'd never been denied anything. "She looks like trouble," Celeste observed. "She is," Tobias smiled weakly from his bed. "Just not for us." The consumption had worsened dramatically over the past week. Tobias could barely sit up without assistance. His journals lay completed on the nightstand, years of evidence documented in failing handwriting. Minerva entered the house like she owned it. Her sharp eyes took in everything: the organized papers, the medical supplies, the way Celeste moved efficiently between caring for Tobias and managing ranch business. "So you're the woman who married my brother?" "I'm his wife, yes." Minerva studied her with lawyer's intensity. "He wrote that you're intelligent, capable, fighting corruption alongside him. I'm fighting for survival. Sometimes they're the same thing." Minerva's smile held genuine warmth now. "I've read his evidence. Impressive work for a dying man and someone the world underestimates." Tobias struggled to sit up. "Tell her the rest, Minerva." "The rest?" Minerva opened her leather case, revealing documents that dwarfed even Tobias's collection. "Your husband wasn't just gathering evidence locally. He was part of a federal investigation into Western land fraud. We've been building cases in 5 territories." Celeste's breath caught. "Federal? Judge Blackwood isn't just stealing locally. He's part of a network that's defrauded the government of thousands of acres, railroad grants, mining rights, homestead claims." Minerva's voice hardened. "They've stolen from everyone: white families, native tribes, freed slaves trying to build new lives." The scope was staggering. Celeste had thought they were fighting one corrupt judge. Instead, they'd uncovered a conspiracy reaching across the frontier. "The marshals are here to arrest him, among others. But we need living witnesses to testify, people who have been harmed and can prove it in court." Tobias coughed violently. Blood spotted the fresh handkerchief Celeste held to his lips. His time was running out faster than anyone expected. "The families he mentioned," Celeste said quickly. "The Hendersons, O'Malley's, Washingtons. They'd testify if they knew others would stand with them. We'll need you too. As Tobias's heir, you'll inherit all his evidence. Your testimony will carry the most weight." Fear crawled up Celeste's spine. Testifying meant standing before judges, lawyers, and crowds, making herself a target for every person who wanted to see her fail. But it also meant justice for families like hers, people who'd been ground down by systems designed to keep them powerless. That afternoon, Judge Blackwood arrived with his largest group yet. 12 men on horseback, all carrying weapons. But he stopped short when he saw the federal marshal's badges glinting in the sunlight. "What's the meaning of this intrusion?" Marshal Davidson stepped forward, hand resting on his gun. "Federal investigation, Judge. We'll need to examine your court records." "On whose authority?" "United States Attorney General. Here's the warrant." Blackwood's face went white as fresh snow. His eyes darted between the marshals and Minerva's professional setup in the ranch yard. Legal documents covered a folding table. Witnesses were already arriving. "This is highly irregular." "So is stealing federal land grants," Minerva said coolly. "We have evidence of systematic fraud dating back 5 years. The judge's supporters began backing away. Nobody wanted to stand too close when federal charges started flying. That evening, Tobias grew worse. His breathing became labored. Fever burned through his massive frame. Celeste sat beside his bed, holding his hand while Minerva reviewed testimony. "I won't see the trial," he whispered. "Don't talk like that." It's true, but you'll finish what we started. His grip tightened weakly. Promise me, I promise. The evidence is everything, every stolen acre, every forged signature, every family destroyed. His voice faded. Make sure they all get justice. I will, Tobias smiled peacefully. Knew you were special the moment I saw you. Not because you needed help, but because you were strong enough to take it. He died at dawn, quietly and without pain. Celeste held his hand as his breathing simply stopped. The giant who'd given her everything slipped away like morning mist. The funeral drew an enormous crowd. Families he'd helped, workers he'd treated fairly. Even some who'd initially opposed the marriage came to pay respects. The man's character had spoken louder than gossip. Judge Blackwood attended too, watching from the cemetery's edge. His presence felt like a vulture waiting for carrion. After the service, Minerva took Celeste aside. The trial starts tomorrow. Are you ready? I don't have a choice. You always have choices. The question is whether you're brave enough to make the right ones. Celeste looked at the fresh grave where Tobias lay. He'd made his choice when he proposed marriage to a desperate stranger. She'd made hers when she accepted. What do you need me to do? Tell the truth, all of it. About the marriage, the evidence, the threats you faced. Minerva's eyes blazed with determination. Show them that justice doesn't care about the color of your skin or your gender. It only cares about facts. That night, Celeste reviewed Tobias's journals one final time. Years of careful documentation. Names, dates, stolen properties, forged documents. A dying man's legacy of truth. Tomorrow she would stand before the territorial court as a widow with property rights. As the legal heir to evidence that could topple a corruption network. As a woman who'd gone from powerless wanderer to key witness in a federal investigation. The transformation was complete. Now came the test. The territorial court arrived in Copper Ridge like a traveling circus. Federal Judge Harrison had commandeered the town hall after declaring Blackwood's courthouse compromised. Tables stretched across the main floor, covered with evidence that told stories of systematic theft. Celeste entered wearing her best dress, Tobias's journals clutched against her chest. The room fell silent. Every eye tracked her movement to the witness stand. Some faces showed curiosity, others displayed naked hostility. Judge Blackwood sat at the defendant's table, flanked by expensive lawyers from Denver. His confident smile suggested he still believed money and influence would save him. State your name for the record. Celeste Morrison Crane. Her voice carried clearly through the packed room. Widow of Tobias Crane, legal owner of Crane Ranch. Minerva stood to present the evidence. Box after box of documents. Forged deeds, backdated contracts, financial records that proved impossible debts. The paper trail stretched across 5 years of corruption. Mrs. Crane, please describe how you came into possession of this evidence. Celeste began with her arrival in Copper Ridge. Her desperate search for work. The marriage proposal that seemed too strange to be real. The gradual revelation of Tobias's investigation. He wasn't just a simple rancher. He was documenting crimes systematically. Every stolen property, every forged signature, every family destroyed by fraudulent debt. The crowd murmured as she described the judge's attempts at intimidation, the manufactured foreclosure threats, the barn fire, the medical examinations designed to invalidate her marriage. Why would Mr. Crane trust you with this information? Because I could read the ledgers, understand the numbers, see the patterns he'd discovered. Celeste lifted her chin proudly. Because I had nothing to lose and everything to gain from exposing the truth. Blackwood's lawyer objected repeatedly, questioned her education, her motives, her right to inherit property. Each attack was designed to undermine her credibility as a witness, but Minerva had prepared her well. Celeste answered every question with facts, dates, documentation. Her testimony never wavered under pressure. Present Exhibit 47. Celeste opened Tobias's journal to the Henderson family case. August 15, 1885. Judge Blackwood foreclosed on the Henderson Ranch for alleged debt of $800, but the bank records show only $200 loaned, fully repaid by June. How do you know the bank records are accurate? Because I have the original ledgers, before they were altered. She produced the evidence with steady hands. The ink is different, the handwriting doesn't match, the mathematical errors are obvious. One by one, she presented 17 cases of land theft. Each story followed the same pattern: manufactured debt, intimidation, foreclosure below market value. Judge Blackwood's signature on every fraudulent document. The Martinez family testified next. Their ranch had been stolen through a forged mortgage they'd never signed. They'd been too frightened to speak out until federal marshals guaranteed protection. Old Henrik took the stand with trembling hands. His homestead had disappeared through backdated mining claims. 40 years of work erased by paperwork he couldn't read. The Washington family's testimony hit hardest. Former slaves who'd saved every penny to buy their own land. Blackwood had manufactured tax debts that exceeded the property's entire value, then foreclosed when they couldn't pay impossible amounts. "We thought the law was against us," Samuel Washington said quietly. "Never imagined it might protect us too." Judge Blackwood's defense crumbled piece by piece. His lawyers attacked witnesses' credibility but couldn't dispute the documentary evidence. Numbers didn't lie. Signatures could be analyzed. Dates could be verified. The federal investigators presented their broader case. Telegraph records proving coordination between corrupt officials across territories. Bank transfers that traced stolen funds to private accounts. A conspiracy that reached from local courthouses to territorial capitals. This wasn't random corruption, Marshal Davidson testified. This was organized crime disguised as legal procedure. When Celeste returned to the stand for final questions, something had shifted in the room's atmosphere. The hostile stares had faded. Even skeptical faces showed grudging respect. "Mrs. Crane, what do you hope to accomplish with this testimony?" "Justice for every family who lost their dreams to lies and forgery." Her voice carried the strength Tobias had seen in her from the beginning. "My husband died knowing truth would outlast corruption. I'm here to prove him right." Blackwood's lawyer made one final attempt to discredit her. "Isn't it true you married a dying man solely for financial gain?" "I married a man who offered me legal standing I'd never had before. In exchange, I helped him expose crimes that would have continued destroying families forever." She met the lawyer's eyes steadily. "If that's financial gain, then I'm proud of it." The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they returned, their verdict rang through the courthouse like church bells. Guilty on all counts. Judge Blackwood's face went gray as tombstone marble. His lawyers slumped in defeat. Years of corruption had finally caught up with him. "Cornelius Blackwood, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. All properties obtained through fraudulent means will be returned to their rightful owners." The courtroom erupted. Families who'd lost everything wept with relief. Townspeople who'd supported Blackwood sat in stunned silence. Marshal Davidson placed shackles on the former judge's wrists. "Federal marshals will escort you to Denver for processing." As they led Blackwood away, his eyes found Celeste in the crowd. The hatred there could have melted steel, but she felt no fear. He had no power over her anymore. Minerva gathered the legal documents with professional efficiency. "It's finished. Justice is served." "What happens now?" "Now you go home to your ranch. Use your legal victory to build something better." Minerva smiled warmly. "You've earned the right to decide your own future." Outside the courthouse, families gathered around Celeste. The same people who'd whispered about bad luck now offered thanks and respect. The transformation was complete, but not just for her. 6 months after the trial, Crane Ranch hummed with activity that would have amazed Tobias. Celeste had transformed the property into something beyond his wildest dreams. The main house buzzed with voices speaking 3 languages. Former slaves worked alongside displaced native families and struggling immigrants. The Henderson family had reclaimed their stolen land. but chose to partner with Celeste on cattle operations. Their combined herds grazed across valleys that had once seemed lost forever. Shared resources meant everyone prospered. Maria Martinez managed the vegetable gardens that now supplied half the territory. Her expertise with desert farming had turned barren patches into green abundance. The profits were split equally among all workers. Samuel Washington ran the horse breeding program with skill that drew buyers from 3 states. His children attended the school Celeste had established in the old bunkhouse. Education was the foundation of everything else. Old Henrik taught metalwork and tool repair to anyone willing to learn. His weathered hands passed down knowledge that kept the community self-sufficient. Age had found purpose again. The legal aid clinic operated from the converted barn every Tuesday. Minerva had trained 3 local lawyers in federal land law. Families across the territory could now defend their rights without traveling to distant cities. Celeste walked through the morning bustle with quiet satisfaction. Account books showed steady profits. More importantly, they showed fair wages for honest work. Every person who contributed shared in the success. The town of Copper Ridge had transformed too. New businesses opened weekly. The corrupted bank had been replaced by a farmers' cooperative. Fair lending practices meant families could actually afford to buy homes and start enterprises. Judge Harrison had appointed honest officials to replace Blackwood's cronies. Court proceedings now followed actual law instead of personal preference. Justice moved slowly, but it moved in the right direction. Celeste still faced whispers and stares when she visited town. Some minds would never change. But respect had replaced outright hostility. Her success spoke louder than prejudice. The Martinez children waved as she passed their schoolyard. Education was opening doors their parents had never imagined. Reading and mathematics would protect them from the frauds that had destroyed previous generations. At the post office, she collected letters from families across the West. Word had spread about their community model. Former slaves in Texas asked for advice on cooperative farming. Native families in Montana sought guidance on legal protection for their lands. Each letter represented hope spreading beyond Copper Ridge. Justice in one place could inspire justice everywhere. The afternoon brought visitors. A young couple stepped off the stagecoach with everything they owned packed in 2 small cases. The woman's clothes were patched but clean. Her husband's hands bore the calluses of hard labor. They approached the ranch house with the same desperate hope Celeste remembered from her own arrival. The same fear of rejection. The same fragile dignity that poverty couldn't quite destroy. "We heard you might have work," the woman said quietly. Celeste studied their faces, saw intelligence masked by exhaustion, determination hidden beneath desperation. The same qualities Tobias had recognized in her. "What skills do you have?" "I can read and write, keep books. My husband knows carpentry and farming." "We've got need for both. Fair wages, decent housing, shared ownership if you prove reliable." Hope flickered in their eyes like candle flames. Shared ownership. Everyone who contributes gets a stake in the success. It's how we do things here. The couple exchanged glances full of wonder. They'd expected charity or exploitation. Partnership was beyond their dreams. "There are conditions," Celeste continued. "Children attend school. Adults respect each other regardless of background. Profits are shared, but so are responsibilities." "Yes, ma'am. Whatever you need." Celeste smiled, remembering Tobias's patient wisdom. "Then welcome to Crane Ranch. We'll find you the right positions." As evening approached, she visited Tobias's grave on the hill overlooking the valley. The simple headstone bore words she'd chosen carefully. "He saw worth where others saw only want." "We did it," she said quietly. "Everything you hoped for and more." The wind carried laughter from the ranch below. Children playing after dinner. Adults planning tomorrow's work. Families building futures on land they could actually own. Minerva's carriage arrived for their weekly dinner. The sisters-in-law had become genuine friends, bound by shared commitment to justice. Tonight they would review legal cases from across the territory. How many new applications this week? Minerva asked. 14 families, 2 more communities wanting to establish cooperatives. The model is spreading faster than we expected. Good problems to have. They walked toward the house together. Inside, the dining table accommodated representatives from 6 families. English, Spanish, and 2 native languages mixed in animated conversation about crop rotation and water rights. This was Tobias's true legacy. Not just exposed corruption, but communities built on mutual respect. Not just individual success, but shared prosperity that lifted everyone. Later that night, Celeste reviewed the account books one final time. Every number told stories of lives transformed. Former outcasts becoming landowners, desperate wanderers finding homes, justice creating opportunity for everyone willing to work for it. She closed the ledger and looked out at stars glittering above her valley. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new families seeking hope, new chances to prove that dignity and fairness could overcome prejudice and corruption. The Black Widow had become something far more powerful. She had become proof that in America, anyone could rise if given a real chance to succeed. And that is all to the story for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from. Perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.